Hello, I'm That Casual Gaming Guy, and welcome to the very first episode of Tall Oaks Zoo. In this episode, we're going to work on the zoo entrance and ticket taking area, and a little bit behind that with the info booths and restrooms. So, the first thing that I wanted to work on was this large oak tree that you first see when you come into the zoo before you even get through the gates. I wanted to make it really nice and pretty, and I actually wind up later on, I can't remember if it's off camera or not, turning it into something different, elevating the tree and the azaleas, I think it is, around it and stuff. But this was the first time that I had done anything with this rock work, kind of like using them as curbs. And it was interesting, to say the least. So that's what I'm doing in this area, is just putting in the foliage and stuff around the paths. Now, off camera, before I started recording, I did put the paths in so I knew what I wanted and where I was going to place certain things, like the first info booth and everything when you walk in, and then the buildings for the next 2 episodes that create the shell, if you will, around the entrance of the zoo and breaks the zoo up into 3 sections. Now let's talk a little bit about the new channel name and everything. I'm sure some of you have noticed that I have completely rebranded myself, and it has nothing to do with what I'm sure some people think it is. It's just something that I felt needed to happen, hopefully to grow a larger fan base. And I just, this to me seems a little more fun. So we went from Gamer 5150 to That Casual Gaming Guy. Now, all my older videos are still going to say Gamer 5150. I'm not going to re-record them or cut the intros and the outros for that matter. But going forward, I am That Casual Gaming Guy. Alrighty, so now we're going to work on the actual zoo gates themselves. I knew I wanted this concrete, wooden, tiled roof structure overhang thing for the gate area, and that actually carries on into the building for the info booths. You've heard me say it before in episodes of Arklay Zoo, and if you haven't watched them, go ahead and watch them, and you'll see that in my design, in my creation, my creativity, I've come a long way. And one of the reasons for that is I started Arklay Zoo days after the game came out, with just very little of playing around and figuring stuff out, and then watching YouTubers, which I will link all of my inspiration in the description below. And if you look at my channel, their channels are all listed there. But I've gotten to that point where I'm becoming more detailed. I mean, come on, we haven't. First 3 episodes, we're not even going to be placing any animals in yet, because that's how detailed I got on these buildings. And I didn't want to edit too much down so you could watch the build process itself. So, but yeah, I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. One of my favorite things, and one of the things that just really grabbed like my attention, I guess you could say, and fueled the rest of the design, is how these wooden beams clip through this wooden wall. And I think it just looks really awesome. It gives that nice contrast and makes for a perfect backsplash for some of the signage that's going to be coming in. I knew I needed some sort of animal representation on the front of this building, not just words and stuff. So I found these really cool animal signs, and they fit perfectly. So yeah, it's awesome. And then of course I used the Planet Zoo letters. And when I first put them down here, I realized that they were a little wonky, so I had to turn off the align to surface so I could get them right. And then I had a hard time deciding on the color, but then I realized my logo has green in it for this zoo, so I might as well go with that green, and actually the contrast turned out nicely. Alright, so now we're moving on to the info building and restrooms. So I decided to play with really symmetry, if you think about it, and made sure that there was info booths facing the entrance, info booths facing the opposite side, and then restrooms on each side. And I think it turned out really well. I first started kind of playing around with trying to put a staff building in here, but it just would have negatively impacted the guests, and I've honestly, had enough of that from my previous zoo. So, and of course with the theming and everything, like I said in the design, I carried over the wooden beams, and you'll see the wooden walls come in a little bit and stuff, so that design is still the same as the entrance to give it a little bit of cohesion. Before it gets a little crazy with the rest of the buildings in this area. One of the things that I had an issue with here was Z-fighting. So after watching a couple of YouTube videos, I learned that if you just take it and put it on a different Z-plane, then you won't have Z-fighting. So that's cool. So I had to separate that little part from the building, but it blends in almost seamlessly, so no worries. Another first for me was building this awning. It was the first time I decided to do a wooden slat, kind of lattice-like awning, and a couple of glitches, sort of, like there with them not really matching up correctly, but that could have just been me. And I just eyeballed everything, so that's, but I think it turned out pretty darn well, especially for my first one. So, and like I said, I'm learning. I'm evolving. I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm having a blast. A total blast. And I hope you guys are too watching this. I know it can get a little boring at times, as my wonderful husband pointed out. But thanks for sticking with me. Now I decided to cut away here with the adding of the roof for one simple reason. I had just major trial and error issues here with this roof. Especially the flat part versus the sloped versus this versus that. It was just like, okay. And so I decided to edit out the creation of this roof and just skip to the end here. I'm happy with how I finally got it, and I believe that's gonna bring us here to the end of our video. There is no live play with this video or the next one, so yeah, so I am that casual gaming guy, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, please hit that like button. Go ahead and leave me a comment in the comments down below. I love reading them. And if you're brand new to this channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.